Good day, fish tankers. Today we're going to talk about the popular live bearers in the hobby, like these beautiful Dumbo guppies that we see swimming around here, as well as their smaller cousins, the endler guppies or the endless live bearer, as we look at these blue endlers. And we're also going to touch on the larger live bearers like these swordtails. Here you see those albino koi swordtails, and the swordtail's smaller cousin, of course, the platy, one of my favorite live bearers. And then of course you can't forget, when you're talking about live bearers, the old staple in the hobby, the molly, as we see these black mollies. But stick around to the end, because we're going to have a real little oddball live bearer that is not so common in the hobby. Now the first rule of all live bearers is get healthy stock. Now you can see with these platies, the ones in the center of the picture, they've got hollow bellies, they're thin, they're emaciated. Stay well clear of these, because most likely they've got internal parasites. So if you see these sort of emaciated live bearers in the tank, stay away. Now here we see the guppies, and that's the second thing of all the live bearers, or at least the ones we have in this video. They don't like soft acidic water. Keep the pH at least 7 and make sure there's some hardness in the water. You can use some crushed coral in the substrate or in a bag in the filter. That's my favorite go-to. That keeps your water a bit harder. Or you can also use things such as cuttlefish bone, but I prefer the crushed coral. There are several commercial products like alkaline buffer also available. Now if we look at these guppies, the one thing we have to keep in mind, the males always want to mate, so keep the male-female ratio towards the end of more females. You want, the common knowledge is 2 females to a male, but you want at least 3 females to a male, I think. And now if you look at the male there, you'll see his anal fin is pointed backwards. That's called a gonopodium, and that's how you can differentiate between the sexes of all these live bearers if a color isn't so different, because some of the females are quite colorful these days. And here we see some endlers, some black line endlers, and all of them here are males. The female doesn't have any color, but once again you can separate them by looking at the anal fin. The males will have that sharp pointed backwards gonopodium. Now if we talk about these live bearers, you'll see here's a mix of endlers and common guppies here. The common guppies are a bit larger with the fan tails, whereas the endlers are those black line, those are black line endlers, so it's easy to distinguish. But if you mix them, they will crossbreed. So don't mix your endlers and your guppies if you don't want that to happen. Then we move on to the platies. These are Mickey Mouse platies, and that's because of a marking there at the base of a tail. If you turn it on its side, it looks like Mickey Mouse. Fish tankers, if you watch this far, please hit that like button. I will greatly appreciate that. And I like the platies because they don't grow very large. You can keep them like the guppies in a 10-gallon, 40-liter tank. I would say 60 liters is better. Larger is always better. But here, if we look at these coral red platies, beautiful platies, you can also see the one in the center of the picture is a male, because it's got that gonopodium, the anal fin that's sharp and pointed backwards. And here you need to look at that, because the males and the females are both the same bright red color. The female's anal fin will be fan-shaped, of course. This is the swordtails. They still have a gonopodium, but here it's easy because these are the more classic swordtails, closer to a wild type. You can see the male has got that sword-like extension in his tail fin. They need bigger tanks. I would say at least a 3-foot tank, 100 liters, because they're fast-swimming fish, and keep a tight lid on those tanks because they will jump. They're big jumpers, the swordtails are. As far as feeding these live bearers, it's quite easy. Most of them will take all the normal flake fare. Some like a bit more vegetables in the diet, especially the mollies, which we'll get to in a moment as we look at that nice swordtail male. And here's a different kind of swordtail. This is an albino koi swordtail, and you can see that one there, the fin is sort of clamped, the anal fin, but that looks like a female. Sometimes when they're juveniles, a juvenile male can be mistaken for a female. And here we have a mollies. These are the short-bodied mollies, the balloon mollies. I like the more classic type. But when it comes to not liking soft acidic water, These guys especially not. They need hard water. So put some crushed coral in that filter and in the substrate. You can even add a little bit of salt for them, but that's not so important. They just don't like soft acidic water. pH above 7, 7.5 and above for these guys. They don't do well on soft water. And that leads us to our final member, and this is the platinum half-beak. Also a live bearer. The gonopodium is not as pronounced in the males, but you will see the dorsal fin of the males are red that you don't see in the female, and the females are of course slightly bigger. Now they usually, not in this tank at the moment, but usually they like to be around the surface. Most of them will eat prepared food like vibrobites, but they also appreciate live food. If you can have fruit flies or little insects that you can throw for them at the surface, they really like that. And mostly brine shrimp, frozen food and bloodworms they will really appreciate as well. Well, as we end with these coral platies, please remember to share among all your fishy groups. I will greatly appreciate that. And please also remember to subscribe. Guys, tell me in the comment section, do you keep either guppies, endless, platies, swordtails, mollies or even half-beaks, and what were your experiences with them? And until I see you again, keep taking good care of those domestic denizens of the deep.